What if I told you that a small theater in the Pomona Valley played a big role in improving race relations between Latinos and white folks in LA County? It's part of the story of the Padua Hills Theatre in the hills above Claremont. In the late 1920s, a guy named Herman Garner joined up with 19 other Claremont citizens and purchased a whole plot of land, about 2,000 acres, in the hills above Claremont. The group was called Padua Hills, Inc. At the time, there was this local drama group called the Claremont Community Players searching for a home theater, and the Padua Hills clan were culture-minded folks, so they chose part of their new land for the theater. They hired the firm of Marston and Maybury in 1930. They designed this lovely complex of Spanish colonial revival buildings. So it's got a theater with a red tile roof. There's a brick dining room attached to it, and a small section on the east that was a ticket office. There's an old apartment that was built as a residence for the director of the theater, and you can still see these display cabinets for all the products that were advertised there. And there's a third building, originally an artist studio and residence, and it served mainly as a craft shop for imported and locally made crafts, so you could shop for pottery or weavings after the show. The first theater troupe to work out of here was the Claremont Community Players. Before performances, they would hire Mexican-American kids to serve dinner and sing to the patrons in Spanish. The Mexican players, or Paduanos as they called themselves, became really popular. When the Olympics came to town in 1932, they put on a special musical play for tourists, and it was covered by the LA Times. It was a big hit. They developed a whole roster of plays that they would repeat for years. Often they would do 6 or 7 plays annually. These plays were mostly in Spanish. They covered topics that were gleaned from Mexican folklore and trips down to Mexico that Bess Garner, one of the main financial backers of the theater, would take constantly. For the folks behind the Padua Hills Theater, Bess and Herman, this was more than entertainment that they were offering here. They cared about bridging the cultural divide between the Mexican-American and Anglo communities. So keep in mind, this was a time of pretty deep segregation in Los Angeles County. In Claremont, just like many other cities in the county, there were racial restrictions about who you could sell your property to. They were trying to keep Claremont white. And Latinos were limited to these 2 small barrios in Claremont. The Garners created the nonprofit Padua Institute to foster cultural exchange and bring in educators and actors from Mexico to help the players. But they also tried to educate the white public about Mexican culture. They would include synopses and translations and such in the playbills so they could better understand what was happening. They had this giant asbestos curtain with a huge map of Mexico, so the audience could place all the action in its proper geographic setting. Some modern historians have taken a more critical approach to the whole enterprise of the Padua Hills Theater. They criticize the portrayals of Mexicans as stereotyped and romanticized, and more aimed at making Mexican culture palatable for an Anglo audience rather than accurately depicting them. I will say that Bess Garner, in particular, did a whole lot to support the Latino community in Claremont. She put up money to create an integrated neighborhood in Claremont in the late 40s, co-signed loans for the families that lived there. Those were the Intercultural Council houses. After more than 40 years, the Padua Hills Theater shut down in 1974. It had just become too costly to operate. Herman Garner willed the theater to his alma mater, Pomona College, along with portions of the hillsides. It was later acquired by the city of Claremont. These days, it's a wedding and event venue, so if you and your forever honeybee want to get married in a beautiful setting surrounded by olive trees that has some important local history attached to it, it's a pretty good choice. Thanks for doing LA with me.